COVID is revealing. And the reason that I use, instead of what COVID has revealed or will reveal, is because it is an ongoing process. I am leery of people who have the answers for everything. None of us know exactly what's going to happen in a year from now. I remember in March of 2020, I belonged to a church plant in Atlanta, and our church had grown from 30 to 500 in a year. And in the middle of our highest growth, the pandemic hit. And I remember the senior pastor sending an email saying, because of this pandemic and COVID-19, we are going to close the church for 3 weeks. And it's been 2 years in March, and we have not opened. So what I'm going to share over the next 2 days, these are some thoughts, some ideas, some best practices, but I want you to just simulate them practically and use them understanding that things do and can change. What COVID is revealing, I want to share with you 5 things. As I go around and talk to pastors and have conversations with church members over the last 2 years, we've done 25 evangelistic series, so we've talked to members, non-members, and pastors. I have seen the following 5 things to be consistent across the board. Doesn't matter where I'm speaking and who I'm speaking with. The first one is that COVID revealed our perspective on life and ministry. If somebody would ask you, somebody would ask your friends, if somebody would ask the person you're married to, somebody would ask your church members, would they say that you are an optimist? Would they say that you have a perspective that is a positive one? What COVID has revealed and is revealing is our perspective. Crises tend to squeeze more of what we already are. Nobody's become negative all of a sudden. It has exposed our personality. And I don't know why it is, but some of us pastors can be jaded sometimes. You know how hard it is to follow somebody who's jaded, who's always had bad news, who always sees the glass half empty, who never sees anything positive about the church. I had a conversation with a pastor who in a message told the congregation, he said to them, he said, this church is so dysfunctional, I wouldn't even invite my neighbors to come here. I have neighbors that I've been working with, and I would not invite them to come here. He said that in a message. So usually, and then when we're having this conversation, he's talking about, like, my members don't want to engage. My members don't want to be evangelistic. My members don't want to invite their friends. Why would they? Why, if our message is, church life sucks, please come join us. Like, why would I want to join your church? One of the things we have to watch out for in this new normal is that it's factual that a lot of people have not returned to the building. And one of the things that we have to watch for is that we become so consumed by the ones who are not there that we neglect the ones who are serving. Why is people not back yet? And I'm like, what about me? I'm back. I'm here. I mean, I've gotten COVID from that deacon that doesn't want to wear a mask. I'm here. What about me? What's going on with me? It's interesting that life sometimes is what you make of it. It's easy to get jaded in ministry because our lives is usually one crisis after another. Ministry would be awesome if it wasn't for the people. And it's easy for us to hone in what's happening from the GC to the conference to our local church, and people don't want to follow, and people don't want to bring, and people don't want to commit. And I have found that in most instances, people will live up to your expectations. So if you expect nothing to happen, nothing is going to happen. It is hard to follow a leader who's jaded, who's negative, who has nothing good to say on social media, who's always has a complaining spirit. So I want you to do something for me. Look to the person next to you. Don't take your mask off and just smile through your mask, just with your eyes. Just go like this. See how the room changes? Would you consider yourself to be an optimist? I'd rather be an optimist and be proven wrong than a negative and look for confirmation. So let me just share 3 psychological terms with you this afternoon. I'm a pastor, but I also like psychology. And these are some things, as we think about positivity in ministry, I want us to process and just spend some time with ourselves over the next 2 days and thinking to ourselves, if a Martian will come to Earth and look at our social media posts, would they assume by what they see that we are positive about God, His mission, and the church? This does not mean that we gloss over difficulties. This does not mean that we don't speak truth to power. This does not mean that we think that everything is rosy all the time, because it isn't. But it is a possibility to find things that are positive in your congregation. Can I hear an amen? There are positive things happening in your church right now. So here are three things that I want us to consider in this first point. I don't know why, but I have a Spanish accent. That first one gives me a hard time. Could somebody say that with a better accent than I? You know what that is? Explanatory style is this. Explanatory style is the manner in which you habitually explain to yourself why events happen. And I had to take, during the pandemic, some stock about some broken records and negative thinking that I have had all my life. I had some self-reflection that I did, and I went to counseling during the pandemic, and I found that there are some things that were taught to me as a child by my parents, and things that I heard from other pastors that are not actually true. For example, there are no friends in ministry. Anybody ever heard that? Some of my best friends are in ministry. There are no friends in ministry. It's lonely at the top. If it's lonely at the top, you're not leading well. These are the things that you say to yourself. This is why, see, they send me to this church because they don't like me. They send me over here to punish me. People are always out to get me. There's this one phrase in particular that I was raised with, and I have great parents, but maybe they got it from their parents who got it from their parents, and there was a couple of things that was ingrained in me early on, and it's this: people are trying to take advantage of you. This is something I was raised with. My dad always used to say, people are going to try to take advantage of you. And there are no friends in ministry. So when you've come to believe that, you filter every relationship based on what's his angle. I know you're being nice to me right now, but at some point you're gonna try to take advantage of me. That's why you can't love people in your congregation, because You filter your present relationships through your past hurts. And if you don't heal the wounds from your past, you're going to bleed over people who never hurt you. There are some people that are going to try to take advantage of you. They exist. But there are some other people who are not going to try to take advantage of you. For example, I would be really leery of the first person who invites you out to eat when you first get to a district. They're usually bad news. You've had that lunch, yes. This is how you filter your relationships. Things are going to end. People are going to take advantage of you. So you start thinking, so what's the angle? So I know that they're supporting me right now, but you're waiting for the other shoe to fall. You're thinking to yourself, it can't be true. This was not be this nice. Something is eventually going to happen. And when you're thinking that way, what happens is it robs the enjoyment of today.
That's true.
This is how you feel to the world. People are out to get me. People eventually leave. Having conversations and deep conversations with pastors for over 30 years have taught me there's a lot of broken pastors pastoring who chose this profession because of personal wounds. And when you filter every single interaction over, at some point people are going to disappoint you. Then it robs you of your joy today, and you're just waiting for confirmation of that fact. And eventually people are going to disappoint you. And when they do disappoint you, you say, there you go. That's it. See, I knew it. It could not have been all good. Would somebody describe you to be an optimistic person who feels like, hey, God called me to be a pastor. I don't have to. I get to be a pastor. Another thing that I've learned over 30 years of talking to pastors and leaders in our denomination, it's I can't remember one. There might be some out there, but I cannot remember an inspiring, transforming leader who is constantly negative. I can't remember that. Because it's hard to follow. If you don't believe in what you're doing, why would I believe in what you're doing? John Maxwell calls it the law of the lid. If you're a 6, nobody's in your church going to be an 8. The 8 either leave somewhere else or they get frustrated and quit. This is how you explain life to yourself. There's 2 others. Let me go back to focus and illusion is this. They did a study. They did a study with college students, and they asked. Focus and illusion is that usually what you focus on first determines the rest, right? So they did a study on college students, and they asked these 2 questions in that order. They said, "How happy are you?" And then they asked, these are single students, university students, "How many days have you gone on in the last month?" And they found out that there was no direct correlation in the dissatisfaction they felt in life when you put them this way. But when you switch them and you ask, "How many dates have you gone on the last month?" And then you ask, "How happy are you?" the dissatisfaction level goes way up. And that's what that psychological term is when you focus on first. I know it's tough. I know some of your best volunteers have told you, "I'm not coming back for now, and I don't know when it's going to happen." I know it's a difficult time preaching to cameras. It's not the same vibe in the room. You don't get to hear people saying amen. You don't get people feedback. You don't get that member who talks really close to you, who doesn't brush their teeth. You don't get the vibe in the room. It's hard preaching to empty seats that used to be filled. It's hard preaching to cameras and knowing about algorithms and what to do and what not to do. I have a good friend of mine whose pastor was walking in front of a camera, just like crawling in the floor, and he didn't know that the camera was filming. I was doing a program in my YouTube channel, and I was interviewing this lady, and I just put the link, and I said, if you want to praise God for what He's done this year, come on the program and thank Him. And she clicked on the link and came on, and she said, I'm thankful to God because I was able to move to this new country, and I'm here by myself, and I don't have anybody in my life. I'm here by myself. And she would kept repeating that she's there by herself, but my family is close by, but I'm here by myself. But I want to thank God that God is a good God that cares for us, because I'm here by myself. And then I'm interviewing her, and behind the camera is a guy in underwear that walks by. What fun! You would have known that 5 years ago. You had no idea what Zoom was. You had no idea how to transmit. You've had an education in technology. You've understood lots of things you didn't know 2 years ago. So it's about, when do you start? Like, I don't start with this. All the stuff that I don't have, all the people that are not here, all the giving that's missing, all the volunteers that I don't. Instead of starting at number 2, I'm going to decide that I'm going to be happy and thankful for what I do have. And from there, then I'll address these things. That's number 2. And then number 3 is the downward and upward counterfactual. This is what this means. First statement and second statement. People who are positive usually live here. People who are negative live here. When you start counting your blessings, I know it's rough. But you know what? Not to be morbid or anything. Lots of people have it more rough than you. All my siblings in Inter-America that have 30 churches. You complain because you have one. And they don't even bother you that much. 30 churches. Try organizing 30 churches in the middle of a pandemic, when some places you can only reach by horse. It's well for us to sit down and think, yes, there are some things that are rough. There are some difficulties, there are some stressors, yes, but it could be worse. My uncle, who's a retired pastor, he retired in August of 2019, after 50 years in the ministry. For the last 10 years of those 50 years, I was telling my uncle all the time, I said, retire. Let somebody else worry about the people. Let somebody else pastor. Let some of the new pastors come in and take over. It's like, what am I about to do? What am I going to do? I'm enjoying this. And finally, he listened to his wife and his 2 kids and his grandkids, and bought a house in Miami with a pool. And he had all kinds of ideas and plans about traveling in good health. His daughter brought COVID home and he died. Oh. Okay. And it taught me a lot of interesting lessons. Ministry is what I do. A child of God is who I am. My identity cannot be defined by my occupation. I have a good friend who works in a retirement home in Florida. There's lots of them in Florida. In the same location, there is a hospital where people are born. There's a school where people are educated. There's a church where people worship. There's a retirement home where people retire. And there's a cemetery where people die in the same general area. And he says, from the moment pastors get here, and they have lots of pastors who retire and go there. From the moment they get here, we can count 10 years before most of them die. Because their occupation has been embedded with their identity. And I just want to feel needed. I need to feel needed. I need somebody to affirm. So we're addicted to affirmation versus working for an audience of one and understanding, yes, this is my occupation and I love Jesus, but I need to have balance in my life. Because if I don't, I'm going to start resenting the people I'm supposed to be helping.
Right. Preach it, right.
My heart is going to shrink. If I always go, negative. Because your life is waking up in the morning to a phone call about divorce, followed by a Bible study, followed by a conversation with somebody that wants to leave the church, followed by somebody who hates the sermon you preached last week and they have all the notes about it. Nobody ever gets great emails. I don't know how it's in Northern California, but nobody gets great emails on Monday morning. Anybody get great emails on Monday morning? Like, that's life-changing. 90% of the people that love what you did, nobody says anything. But the 10%, I was reading the other day that pastors make everybody happy at some point in their ministry. Some are happy when you get there, some are happy while you're there, and some are happy when you leave. When you live here, like, yes, it's rough. We don't dismiss it. We don't minimize it. But it could be worse. I could be dead. Instead of, I wish I were. And we have pastoral envy, and we look at how other people get their stuff, and we look at how other people transmit, and we take a look at our views, and you have 32 views, and your church is 300, and you're like, where is the people at? And you see other people that have 3,000 views, and you're like, what's going on? Is it me? Is it people don't like me? And what's wrong with me? And you're personalizing some things that does not. God is not calling to be successful. He's calling to be faithful. And when you're faithful, He'll bring success as He wants it, when He wants it. You minister to people and let the results up to God.
That's right.
Instead of, I wish I were. Comparison is a thief of joy. A year and a half ago, I started a YouTube channel. And my mentor, he said, one of the first things he said, the worst thing you can do is compare your views and your subscribers with other people. That's the worst thing. Don't look at anybody else's channel's subscribers. Because one, you'll be better than them and you'll be prideful. Or two, you'll be worse than them and you'll be discouraged. Just do you. Find your niche and do you. Bless the people you're committed to instead of thinking, I wish I were. That's the first thing that COVID taught us. Number two, COVID revealed our deep commitment to the status quo. I don't know why that question Mark was there, but it's a mistake on my spelling. God did not call us to live in the cutting edge of the status quo. It is interesting how deeply embedded it is in our DNA, how we like things to remain the same. It's revealed to us our deep commitment to the status quo. When do we want to go back to normal? I want to go back to normal. When are things going to get back to normal? I love Mark Batterson's quote. I don't want to go back to normal. I want to go back to supernatural. Normal was 20% of the people doing the work and 80% of the people watching. Normal was 20% of the people giving and 80% of the people not giving. Normal was nobody coming to Christ. Normal was not good. I don't want to go back to normal. I want to go back to supernatural. I want to see life transformation. I want to see miracles happen. I don't want to go back to normal. I want to go back to supernatural. I have a good friend that is a pastor, and his church is very committed to deep theological issues and life-changing issues such as drums. They're like, we draw the line at drums. And they said, no drums in the sanctuary, because that is voodoo from Africa. First of all, that's racist. First of all, that's just right there. Just throwing out there. Great thing to be invited somewhere, because you can say whatever you want, and then you can go. And they said, no drums. But the pandemic shut the building down, and they started having worship outside in the parking lots. So the pastor said, well, we're in the sanctuary. Is it okay if we have worship music here? And they're like, sure, it's outside. So for a year and a half that the building was closed, they had worship outside, and everybody was in their cars worshiping God, and they had a band, and they had gospel music, and it was fantastic. And all of a sudden, the county said, you can go back in the building, and then they had to have that conversation. Because over that year, the church grew. Over the year, and when the building was closed, the church grew, the people were blessed, and the same people who were in their cars worshiping God said, no, we're going back there, we can't have drums in the church. All the stuff that we're committed to, that people don't come to church for announcements, bro. People don't come to church to know about the next Pathfinder car wash. People come to church to encounter God and all the fluff that we have to cut out. But it's interesting that 2 years the churches were shut down, and we're coming back, and they want to add the same things we took away for 2 years. 2 years did not help them forget all the stuff that you had to add. I've seen some bulletins, they have 22 items in there. You have more items in your bulletin than baptisms. Come on. Deeply committed to the status quo. This is the way it's supposed to be. This is the way we've always done it. Those are the last words of a dying church. We don't have any money. We've never done it that way before. So at some point, you're going to tell yourself, okay, we did without these things. I'm committed to God's mission for my congregation. But I can never elevate methods above mission. And I can get them confused. This COVID season revealed to us our deep commitment to the status quo. They asked me to preach in a church over the pandemic, and they said, we start at 11. We're going to have some preliminaries and a couple of songs, and you'll be up by 11:15. You know what time I started preaching? Over COVID. 12:10. They had announcements, and they had like a nominating committee, and all that. I was like, what is happening right now? The average attention span in Facebook is 3 seconds. You're going to tell me you're going to need to have an hour of preliminaries to do what? Number 3, COVID revealed the reality of our divided perspectives. I have a pastor, I was reading that he got 2 types of emails from his congregation. They had a survey about masks, and he got two types of emails from his congregation. First email was, we are going to be glad to return to church when masks are required. Then the other set of emails that came back that we are happy to continue to attend as long as masks are optional. It's an impossible job that you have. It's an impossible job. I think somebody, I think it was Kerry Newhoff that puts it this way. He said, whatever you say is never enough and always goes too far. It's an impossible job. It revealed, it didn't divide us. People say, well, this COVID thing divided us. No, it revealed the divisions that already existed. It revealed our insecurities. It revealed how we looked at the immigrant. It revealed our political persuasions. People become keyboard warriors when they stand behind a computer. It revealed racism. It revealed it. It revealed it. It didn't cause it. It revealed it. We're deeply divided. There's a lot of unprocessed grief that adds to this. So how do you minister to people? I went to a church, and I usually, when I get there, people don't assume that I'm the pastor because I always preach in Jordans. So people don't think that I'm the pastor, right? Especially the older Jamaican ladies. Their mind does not compute. So I showed up at this church. I don't know what their perspective on mask is. I respect whatever it is that you feel in whatever camp you fall. But I always, my default setting is I wear a mask, and if I see it that's appropriate, then I will remove it. And so I showed up with my mask and my wife. And I showed up at the door. There was this guy, and he said, "Happy Sabbath." And I said, "Happy Sabbath." The second phrase that came out of his mouth was, "You know masks don't work, right?" I was like, "Come again?" He's like, "Yeah, masks don't work, right? Because you're breathing in the corona, and and it's circulating back into your mouth." And he gave me all this explanation, all this stuff because he's done his research. And I'm thinking to myself, my heart is breaking. Like, you can have whatever. You don't want to wear a mask. Well, more power to you, bro. But I'm thinking to myself, here's a person. We're about to start an evangelistic series on that night. Imagine there's a person in that community that got a flyer in the mail, or somebody invited, who just lost a loved one because of COVID, who just gone through a heartache because of COVID, and he shows up to church grieving. Maybe he hasn't come to church in 5 years, or 10 years, or 20 years, or ever, and he's invited, and the first person that he meets at the door is somebody who says, "You know, masks don't work, right?" More Jesus, please. More Jesus, please. COVID revealed the reality of our divided perspectives. I have a burden in my heart about our members being discipled by the 24-hour networks.